What's up, guys? I wanted to come and talk to you about why I think DC and Marvel are making huge mistakes concerning villains. So, I really hate the trend of redeeming villains. Now, don't get me wrong, I think some villains are cool to redeem. So, Plastic Man started off as a villain, well, he didn't start off as a villain, but in the DC universe, he was a thief that Batman caught, and then he became reformed. And I think that's cool. And there are others who started off kind of as villains and then became heroes in their own right, like Groot. He was a monster before he became a hero. And others are like that. So I think it's cool. My problem is there's a lot of villains that they are trying to make you think that they're more anti-hero or hero. And what I'm okay with is making you identify with a villain. So, like, if you've seen the new Infinity War movie, Thanos is a very relatable character, even though he's mad and crazy, and wants to kill half the universe. But there are other villains that people are trying to make you, that are definitely villains, that Marvel and DC are trying to make us think are heroes. And that's one of my biggest complaints about the Suicide Squad, is that they're all villains. And they're trying to portray them as if they actually care about what the things that they don't care about, which is being good. Deadshot only cares about his daughter. He didn't care about right or wrong. That's why he kills people. Harley Quinn, she's crazy. She belongs in a madhouse. She only cares about the Joker. Why are we trying to make her look like a hero? And they do that in the comic books too. She's kind of a preppy hero. That's not Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn likes doing bad things. Catwoman and Poison Ivy, they've been anti-heroes in the Birds of Prey. And I'm just like, these are straight up villains. Like, they've been around forever, and they're villainous. They do evil, bad things. They have their reasons, different reasons for each character. Poison Ivy's trying to protect cares more about plant life than she cares about human life, which is crazy. And then you have Catwoman, who cares more about stealing than she does about morality. And she's a villain. But they're like, oh, well, let's make them kind of more heroic. It's not so bad that they steal or, hate humans and try to kill all humans. It's not that bad. They're ultimately good. No, they're not. And if you change that part about them, they're not the same character. The worst one is Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is not a hero. He does not care about the little man. He doesn't care. All he cares about is his name. That's it. I don't even think he really cares about money. The only reason to Lex Luthor, he's the hero. He's the superhero. And so I think it makes sense for him to make a super suit, even though I feel like his stories are better when he doesn't have it. He has to rely only on his intelligence and not on his brute strength comes from his suit. But I think that Lex Luthor is better when he just relies on his intellect. But he doesn't care about people. People are a means to an end. And his end is getting rid of Superman so that he can because he wants to be the hero. He sees Superman as a fundamental threat to humanity, so he doesn't mind killing a few people because he feels like if he allows Superman to live and doesn't kill Superman, then Superman will end up killing people. So it's okay for them to die in his justifiable world, as long as he, defeats the bad guy. But the problem is the bad guy is the good guy, and so it's just like Lex Luthor is not a good person. He's not. He's evil. He's maniacal, and he doesn't really have good morals. He doesn't have a good morality, and that's the worst. Like, they've had him as a hero for a little while, and I'm like, that's not Lex Luthor. If they made it where what they should do, because they've got to make him a villain again, they should have either somebody having messed with his mind, or have it all be a facade. And I don't know what for, but that'd be really interesting. That he's been pretending to be a hero and really trying to gain their trust to bring about his evil plan or whatever. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, Marvel does similar things with like Doctor Doom. He always borders the line, and I'm not opposed to heroes fighting or villains fighting with heroes for a mutual good. I'm not opposed to that, as long as you make sure that the audience knows and the reader knows that the villain is still the villain. Like, there's a reason that they fight them. So in what's it called? In the new Justice League No Justice 4-part series, the good guys are fighting with the bad guys, and Superman hates that because they're villainous, they're evil, but they're joining together to fight a more powerful enemy for the good of the planet and the universe. And so, despite their distaste and distrust of them, they trust them to an extent to defeat a common enemy. And I think that's interesting. Dr. Doom does that all the time. He's probably more of an anti-hero than a hero. Another one, Deadpool. I love Deadpool. I think he's great, but he's a villain. He's a straight-out villain. He doesn't care about killing. He doesn't care about people dying or loving. And it goes back to the fact that he knows that he's a fictional character. Since he knows that he's a fictional character, he knows that he can kill people and it doesn't really matter. But the heroes don't know that. All they see is this guy who doesn't care anything about life and is okay with killing them. So rightly so, he is a natural villain. He was always a villain until recent days. He's an anti-hero, maybe. You could argue that in the fact that he's not necessarily evil in the sense that he's out to save the world. He's not a super villain, but he is villainous. He does both and I like anti-heroes. Don't get me wrong. Like, the Punisher is excellent because he wants to do good, but his methods are bad. And I like that. It's all in motivation. See, the reason Deadpool's a villain, I think, is because his motivation is money. Same with Deathstroke. Like, Deathstroke could fight for the good guys, but he follows the money. Whoever pays him the most gets his loyalty. And that's a cool idea because he's just a mercenary. Both of them. But other guys that are straight villains should not be looking heroic. I think in the Arrow TV show, they tried to make Merlin like that. He kind of jumped back and forth, doing good, doing bad, and they fought with him and without him, and he kind of played more like an anti-villain, but he's a straight villain. Like, he destroyed half the city, Um, I really don't like that, and I think the reason I don't like it is because there's a natural line between good and evil, and I like characters that blur that line, like the Punisher and Deathstroke and Deadpool, where they're, well, Punisher's the real anti-hero there, because the others are villains. If you don't care about human life and you're okay with killing them and have no remorse over that, you're not a hero. If you don't care anything about saving life unless you're making money, that's not heroic. Punisher wants to save people. He's only killing the bad guys, and that's an anti-hero. So, good, good moral or good philosophy, bad uh, actions, uh, bad good motive, bad acting it out. So I like those characters because it makes you really think about it, and it kind of pushes you away from them. Which is why I never thought that the Punisher was a really good person to hold his own TV series. I got bored through that series. I couldn't finish it. Not just because of that, but also, like, I just got tired. Like, if the Punisher's not running around shooting lots and lots of people all the time, it's not an interesting movie. It's kind of like Black Panther, the movie. I didn't really care for it because he just didn't do enough. Black Panther needs to be running around fighting people all the time, just like Captain America does. There's too much downtime where he just sits around and rules on a throne. I'm like, that's boring. I want to see the Black Panther doing stuff. Whatever. I just hit my mic. So, but I don't like the blurring of the lines. So, when you're making a villain who does really bad things, and you're making them a good guy, but they still do all the bad things, then you're changing fundamentally the definition of hero. And I think we need morality in our storytelling. We need a good and we need a bad, because there is real good and evil in the world. And if we're blurring the lines in that, then we can confuse what is and isn't good and what is and isn't evil. And there's very few gray areas in life. I mean, it's right and wrong are very black and white, and so it's very one or the other. You're either good or you're bad, and when you make all your heroes like that, well, one, you don't really have any true villains. If all your villains could be either or, then you don't really have any good villains. You think of like one of the greatest villains of all time, Darth Vader. There was no questioning that he was a villain. I mean, he later gets saved, sure, and again, I'm okay with redemption. But Darth Sidious, he doesn't get saved. It's obvious what he is. You know that guy's the villain. He's the bad guy because of what he does and what he says. Alright, when you have a person who does both, who does really horrendous things, or believes really horrendous things, but then does some good things, you're really blurring the line. Like Harley Quinn, so she fights some good guys. I mean, she fights some bad guys to help the good guys, and she's funny. That doesn't make her good. You know, fighting the bad guys doesn't make you a good guy. The bad guys fight each other all the time. Harley Quinn kills people very horrifically, just like the Joker does. Very horrifically. The fact that they make it funny is funny as part of the character, which nobody gets right. I did like the Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad. She was probably one of the best parts of the movie. She was relatable, but it was still pretty obvious that she was a villain. I think Deadshot was probably the one that blurred it the most. The others were obvious villains. Captain Boomerang was stupid. I'm like, this isn't Captain Boomerang. He's too arrogant. Captain Boomerang is a very proud, arrogant guy, not some shy half-wit. So I don't know. I don't like that DC and Marvel keep blurring the lines between heroes and villains. Make us really good villains, make us really good heroes, make us really good anti-heroes that blur the line. But don't make all your villains anti-heroes. Don't turn all your heroes or your villains into heroes. Don't make all your heroes blur the line. We need a variation. We need a spectrum. I want some heroes that are super dark. I want some villains that are super dark. I want some villains that are obvious. They're funny, they're bright, they're colorful, they're dumb. I like some villains that blur the line. I like anti-heroes that blur the line. I want my heroes. I like dark heroes. I like Batman. I like bright heroes like Superman. I like all the ones in the middle. But I want all of them as a mix. I hate it that DC has so many villains that they're trying to make heroes. They've got the Suicide Squad. They've got Lex Luthor. That's the worst one. I'm blanking right now, but they've got so many villains right now that are trying to Catwoman, Poison Ivy. They've got all these villains. They did Clayface. Now that one was good. I'm just gonna say that one was really good. I liked that one. And spoiler alert, he's dead now. That was so good. That's how you redeem a villain. But he was also a special case because it was his monster, the Clayface, that was actually making him mad. That was making him kill people. His personality wasn't actually a bad guy. He wanted to do the right thing, but when he was taken over by Clayface, he couldn't do the right thing. And so he was fighting the monster that was within him. And that was so good. That was really good. But that's my thoughts. I just want more villains, good villains. I'm tired of DC and Marvel changing all the villains into heroes. I think part of it is because they don't know where to go with the character. And which is why they don't write for some of the old villains anymore. They're like, what do you do with the Joker anymore? What do you do with do we want the same old stories again over and over and over again? Nobody's really written a good Riddler in a long time. I love the Riddler. I want to see more Riddler. But everybody's afraid to do a good Riddler. Tom King tried and it was awful. But I think part of the reason is they don't know where to take the character. It's like, oh, nobody's made them good guys before, let's do that. I'm like, no, nobody's made them good guys for a reason, because they're villains. Nobody's made Catwoman good because she's not good. Nobody's made Poison Ivy good because she's not good. They're villains. Nobody's made Harley Quinn good because she's a villain. Just make the villains villains. That's all I have to say about it. Peace.